with AI and the speed at which you can now do the administrative type things and the drafting, that frees me up to do other things. We're starting to spread that concept through our firm. AI Legal Assistant gives you the ability to do that. So you'll upload that recording and combine it with the document that you were talking about. And then from there, you'd have a detailed file note, detailed correspondence and so forth. And that's all done within 10 to 20 minutes. You have to be careful with it, is that you end up, you see more, if you're a hard working person like me, you'll see more clients per day because you're getting through the wash up of the meetings quicker. Those 3 meetings, which are sensible to have a day rather than 5 or 6, frees up my time to do other things. That means you can do more of the interesting side of your work rather than the mundane all the time. At this point, doesn't totally eradicate the need for a legal assistant or a law clerk, but I can see the days coming where it will. So what it does is where we would say to a junior, okay, I've seen the client, the client's condition is now stable, we can assess damages, can you go and prepare a formulated claim? That's what we call it in South Australia. In other states, they might call it a schedule of damages, but formulation's a good term for it. So that's where we do the heavy lifting with what we've got on the file. And, we might want to do a letter with a chronology of events, in terms of the background of the client, the injuries they've sustained, the treatment they've had, and then the background information to their damages. That's one of many tasks that, say, a mid-level lawyer would do. And what we're doing is, like anything else, like working with a good junior, you still have to check that work, but that work's being done a lot quicker. So then even the junior and intermediate lawyers that you've got in the firm are doing more interesting things because the platform is doing, you end up being able to take on more matters than what you could do before you use something like AI Legal Assistant. You can actually churn through more work rather than now go through each and every medical report, and from that medical report, for example, do a chronology of the treatment that someone's had. And that just that alone might take hours because you've got to sift through. You might go through the initial hospital records, the GP records, and a number of different medical reports. If you were to upload all of those documents into the platform, that can be done literally within minutes. And that's something that could have been a 3-4 hour, half a day job in the past. So then that's done. The formulation's done quicker because we get the background done, and then we get to the part where the mathematical part of our formulation quicker because all of that background stuff is done and you can rely on it. You have to check it. And I think, lawyers always have to be ethical and professional, but checking a document that took 10 minutes to prepare, okay, it might be as lengthy as it was when the junior did it. So that the checking side of it's still there, but overall the process is shorter. When I meet with a client, I'm now more engaged because I know, the back end's being looked after. So at the moment, what does a responsible solicitor do when they meet with a client? They're either taking handwritten notes or they're typing. And whilst they're doing that, at points, they're stopping the client so that they can, get their notes in that they're accurate. Because if you're, say, recording a client and then uploading it to the system, you're more engaged with the client. The tendency, and one of our partners in the firm, Kirstine, told me yesterday, I'm probably spending, the meetings are quicker and I'm more engaged. The wash up, so then for example, the note taking, the email to the client, the email to the insurer, the email to the barrister or letters, whatever that correspondence is, updating of your case summary, that's probably taking, a quarter of the time. So in terms of how much quicker, well, it's got to be at least a third. in terms of your bottom line, we've seen that we're getting to the end of cases quicker, and that's just after a small sample size of 7 months. And we've come off the back of, this is the 9th of July, so I can talk about the end of a financial year, and we've come off the end of, what was one of our most successful, if not our most successful financial year. And I attribute a significant portion of that to the speed at which we're able to now do the work, which is attributable to the efficiencies we've gained from AI legal assistant. So I was the trailblazer, I guess, in the firm when we were looking at, usage through, we started in November. I was using it heavily right from the beginning. And, as we got to February, March and April, I was, using it significantly more than the other 3 teams in the firm. But reporting back, and now the uptake across the firm is much greater. And I mentioned to you, before our chat today that I'm no longer the heaviest user in the firm. There are others. So I can definitely point to the success of my, particular team in the firm. I used it as a litmus test. I actually embarked on this as a bit of an experiment to then say, well, okay, we can use this for future planning. Look at what the team did last year. Look at what can be achieved. And that's not just in dollars, it's engagement with clients, client satisfaction, speed at which the work's done. So the most important thing is the client wants to get on with their life. They might be left with disabilities and impairments, but if they want a financial outcome. From a lawyer's point of view, we want a legal outcome. The client wants peace of mind and a financial outcome so they can get on with the rest of their life. And so the legal assistant assists us to be able to do that. And I've got data that demonstrates that the early stages of this has been enormously successful for our firm and for our clients. We're only just scratching the surface, and we've seen significant improvements in turnaround. I think it's only going to get better with upgrades I can see are coming, and also in terms of our uptake. So if our uptake's greater, that's only going to improve. From our early discussion, there was a little case. It's sometimes the smaller cases that just get stuck in, I can't get to that because I've got these major claims that I'm working on. But I took instructions from a lady in her late 80s that had a slip and fall in a supermarket. And normally that might be something that takes 9, 12 months. We turned that case around in 4 months earlier this year. Smaller claim, nothing like a catastrophic motor vehicle or workers' compensation claim, but it was a little example of how we'd been able to take on, a smaller matter and turn it around quickly, where normally we might say, well, we're too busy, we can't fit that client in because there's too much else going on, or if we did, it would take longer. It's quite clear that in an overall sense, things are happening much quicker. I looked down my file list and the other day, and I looked at, what are the oldest matters we've got? And the oldest matter is nowhere near as old as it used to be. Now, we put technology first in this firm, and so that some of it's attributable to that, because I've only been using it for 7 months with your platform and 12 months total. If a firm commits to a technology first and then really embraces AI, then that's the acceleration point at the end. That's the acceleration point for us, was to then, on the back of everything else we've done, so you go paperless, you get the most out of your software, you use, up-to-date software, then you throw in AI, and, as far as I can see, AI Legal Assistant is the best available. The improvements that you see and the job satisfaction and the client satisfaction. It's not always about money, it's also about, do you enjoy what you do day to day? If you're stuck in the weeds all the time as a professional, you start to resent your job. Solutions like AI Legal Assistant can give you, and the product that you're producing, you're not compromising the quality. If anything, you talk about the IQ of AI going up as time goes on, the IQ of AI Legal Assistant going up. Well, this was an interesting thing from Kirstine. I'm sorry, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. Yesterday, Kirstine said to me, it writes better than I do. and it doesn't look like it's AI. It looks like it's me, but it writes better. What an endorsement that is.